You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WYBC.
WCYTV
Here on the Daily Signal.
Good evening and welcome to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first on 93 WIBC. Good to be back home in our studio because we have more than enough news to cover without my being somewhere else. So let's get to it, shall we? According to an ABC News report this morning, which is citing two U.S. officials, Iran may be activating sleeper cells outside the country. However, here's where things get a little bit more cemented. Two law enforcement agencies then confirmed these alerts to a number of news outlets. To make a long story short here, preliminary signals analysis of a transmission likely of Iranian origin, meaning now, yes, this was an encrypted transmission that was sent from Iranian space or from the Iranian side of the net, attempting to activate some type of sleeper cell network, those who have long been rumored to be in the United States, other Western countries, practically Swiss cheesed throughout Europe, no pun intended. And these particular terror networks are resulting in some tighter clamp down law enforcement and military base responses. First and foremost in this particular example is not the terror attack from over the weekend in New York City, but an alert today at Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana, which has announced a number. They are on complete lockdown right now, a base-wide lockdown at Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana earlier today after an unauthorized drone was spotted flying over the installation. A shelter-in-place order was issued while security responded. That, again, is a rather big deal, folks. That's not a small thing. And the reason a lot of these bases are on lockdown is because a lot of foreign assets, and whether we're talking about the son of the Ayatollah owning property right across from specific embassies, both of ours and our allies, or whether we're talking about here at home, the Chinese and the Iranians, who are getting increasingly desperate, buying up property around U.S. military installations, research facilities. And I'm not just talking about the major military installations that may come to your mind. Louisiana, Indiana, Nebraska, all the way up into the Dakotas are places where there have been increasing eyebrows raised over the number of properties which have been bought by organizations connected directly to Chinese nationals, Beijing, and Tehran. Now, that brings us over to, of course, the president's comments today about the continuing operation in Iran. The president did say that right now, all of the focus is on the Strait of Hormuz. There's complete air dominance. There's naval dominance in the Persian Gulf. But Iran is trying a few shenanigans, let's say, regarding the Strait of Hormuz. Here was the president on that today.
Or anything. So the Strait of Hormuz is going to remain safe. We have a lot of Navy ships there. We have the best equipment in the world.
Now, it is true, just to be clear, that the Strait of Hormuz is incredibly important to the United States as well as the rest of the world in the petroleum market. Over 20% of the world's entire petroleum supply flows through the Strait of Hormuz. And when the United States struck 3 Iranian craft today, at least one of which was considered to be a petroleum tanker, then the markets got really, really nervous really quickly. And particularly one of these markets being the Brent. In other words, the Brent crude oil continuous contract that's essentially tracking the price of oil per barrel. And it shot up. And all of a sudden, we got all of these instant midterm talking points that got brought forward saying, here it is, Trump skyrocketed oil prices and it's all over and it's going to be absolutely terrible. And the president of the United States responded quite a way. Yeah, we knew that striking Iran was probably not going to be the friendliest in the brief moment, in the temporary, for the price of oil per barrel. It shot over $100 a barrel. Everyone immediately went to their phones and started saying, I knew it all along, and all of that nonsense. And 12 hours later, it dipped below the mark of $100 per barrel and has been dropping ever since. Now, we're going to get into some more of that here in a couple of minutes, because before we get to the rest of the Strait of Hormuz and the oil prices, I do want to show the president's comment to a reporter asking if this is going to be over soon, because the president hasn't been exceptionally clear on when the operation is coming to a close, what the conditions are. This has upset a lot of people, but I'll play this particular clip for you.
Called it an excursion. You said it would be over soon. Are you thinking this week it will be over?
No,
Are you talking
but soon.
about days?
I think soon.
Okay, and with respect
Very
to
soon. Look, everything they have is gone, including their leadership. In fact, there are two levels of leadership, and even actually, as it turns out, more than that. But two levels of leadership are gone. Most people have never even heard about the leaders that they're talking about. So it's obviously been very, very powerful, very effective.
Now, the president of the United States said, look, we've achieved a point of military victory in that our Air Force, our Navy has complete dominance over Iran. Now, the president of the United States did make it very clear at this point that the Iranians, who have, again, been throwing out missiles to anyone around that they can hit, they threw a missile at the Incirlik U.S. base, Incirlik in Turkey. You have about as much chance striking Incirlik as you do hitting the face of the moon from Iran, but Iran's trying very desperately to throw as much as they can out, although their number of missiles launched per day has gone down from about 80 per day down from the previous 390 down to 10, because the United States has maintained complete and utter air dominance over Iran. The president of the United States is now focusing all of his attention on the petroleum choke point of the Strait of Hormuz. This is where he's warning Iran not to do any funny business, probably for territorial sovereignty reasons, regarding the Strait of Hormuz.
Do anything, the price will be incalculable. It will be so great that they will have wished they never did it, because you have to keep the straits flowing. With all of that, it affects other countries much more than it does the United States. It doesn't really affect us. We have so much oil. We have tremendous oil and gas, much more than we need. We have Venezuela now as our new partner, great partner. They've worked out so wonderful. We're working with the administration, the president, and it's a massive source of oil.
Now, the G7 announced they would be moving around some of the strategic petroleum reserves. Of course, and just to make this rather clear, the United States is considering a couple of options regarding essentially taking over part of the Strait of Hormuz oil operation, just like we did with Venezuela. In which case, a recovering and rebuilding government would be given back a huge portion of their oil industry after the United States said, yeah, sure, here you go. You can once again participate in one of the only parts of your economy that is worth just about anything, and even in its current state. That's not saying much, because right now we are still seeing oil refineries in Iran, which are still under control of the Iranian Islamic regime, that are up in flames. Very, very tall flames, you can see on the live stream. Now, for those of you who are on the radio and can't see this, essentially imagine the largest kaboom that you can and multiply it by like 6. Yeah, that's essentially the oil explosions currently over in Iran. Now, they have named a new leader, a brand new supreme leader. Finally, the Council of Experts, the new Council of Experts, the old one was buried under a lot of rubble, is the son of Khamenei, Mojtaba Khamenei. Now, Mojtaba Khamenei, he's got a couple of issues. First of all, according to a couple of outlets today, the Iranians reportedly used during the allegiance ceremony a cardboard cutout for Khamenei, meaning they were doing their little swearing on the Quran and a goat ceremony, and they essentially had a fat head ordered off Amazon of Mojtaba Khamenei. Now, there's a couple of questions as to why this may be the case. No one knows where he is. He may not even be conscious right now. He has reportedly sustained severe injuries, including up to having his leg already amputated. Interesting. And by the way, that's not just according to me. Iranian state TV claims that their new supreme leader is already wounded. As one comment put it today, you're going to be able to determine this guy's shelf life against let's just say against an avocado in July. Radio crew, we're going to send you over to the commercial after letting you know that, of course, Trump has already told aides he would support the killing of Mojtaba Khamenei if he refuses U.S. demands. That's according to the Wall Street Journal. We're going to continue over on the live stream because we don't do that same commercial break over here. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. Now, in the meantime, let's talk about the dreaded, oh no, terrible, super duper oil prices of infinity and beyond. So earlier today, I woke up, you maybe woke up to the complete claxons blaring, oh no, everything is doomed. We're all in such terrible, terrible, terrible states here of the Brent oil index. It shot up to over $100. And already I can see some of the bots in the comment section saying, it's over $80 now. That's because those bots were earlier today saying that it was over $100-something. And then the price started to drop again. And it turned out that all of those on the left and those on the kind of weird horseshoe hyper-isolationist front on the right, claiming that, oh, here it is, it's Iraq and Afghanistan, oil prices are skyrocketing, Trump's actually Obama. And Michelle, the oil prices are really up in the air. It turns out, no. That the guy who kind of ran on oil prices might have a bit of a plan here. I say again, let the man cook. Let the man cook. I think there might be just a little something here. When the president of the United States is talking about the Strait of Hormuz, in which he's basically told the tankers now to go through the Strait of Hormuz. To do so, he says, with guts, you got to do it with a lot of guts. And the United States will do their best to cover them and ensure them from one of our economic agencies as well. Little piece of interesting footage here. This is a map of the Strait of Hormuz and traffic over the last 24 hours. Now, what you'll notice is that a lot of boats appear to be getting close to the gap up at the top middle. That would be the Strait of Hormuz itself right there. And right as they get up there, they blink out. They seem to disappear, erased from existence. That is the transponder. So on the high seas, as well as in the air, craft are very, very much encouraged. And by encouraged, I mean, unless you want to be flown aside by a friendly F-22 Raptor, it's encouraged that you turn on a transponder that says, hey, I'm this person, and this is my vehicle, my boat or plane, and you're watching Disney Channel. And, that lets people know, hey, I'm a legal craft operating in the area. What it appears that the boats in the Strait of Hormuz are doing is they are getting to about 5 to 10 nautical miles away from the choke point itself, and they are switching off their transponder. And then, presto, they turn it right back on as soon as they are through the gap. So you can actually see some of the boats which are essentially dropping in out of nowhere. And that is because they're getting a little close up, calling out on the boaters' version of the CB. And it turns out Smokey and the Bandit just flip off that transponder and they're making it through just fine. Now, Chuck Schumer is very, very angry. He is suggesting to the president of the United States that he starts releasing a bunch of oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. There's a bit of an issue with that, though. And the reason there's, just a little bit of an issue with this is Chuck Schumer has ordered the Senate Democrats to shut down just a ton of the government. Just an absolute ton of the government. Nobody is really taking him seriously, but here you go.
American families cannot afford to simply wait and hope for the price to come down.
Price has gone down quite a bit since he made this statement.
The solution is right here at home, Trump. Use the SPR, release it, prices will come down. Stop this blather that it'll go away soon. It won't. There's a war going on over there. Just last night, I saw a big oil refinery in Iran hit by missiles. That makes the price of oil go up even further. So at least use the SPR to get the price down.
Not what the SPR is for. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve is not just to, turn down a little of the oil and then up a little bit and then, we're really fixing the prices. Fixing prices is not what it is for. And again, to be clear, before we bring the radio crew back, sometimes you do in fact have to break an egg to make the omelet. We're going to bring the radio crew back. Don't go anywhere. We have a lot more to talk about because Schumer's got problems. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. Don't go anywhere.
It's the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast. Old Chuck Schumer, Senate Minority Leader, he's very, very mad because it appears that the President of the United States is not releasing all of the oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. You know, the one that Trump partially refilled with, partially refilled with the oil seized from Venezuelan cartels. Well, the President of the United States has made it quite clear that Chuck Schumer's got no leg to stand on here, in part. Why? Well, because Schumer and the Democrats have gone all in on shutting down the Department of Homeland Security in an effort to go after immigration customs enforcement. And this is a bit of a problem because, as we're going to talk about with Senator Jim Banks here in a couple of minutes, ICE is already funded through at least 2027 at current spending levels, and if there's a drop-off, through 2029. So, that's a bit of an issue. That's a bit of an issue if who you're going after in a government shutdown are the Department of Homeland Security officials that might be responsible for, let's say, preventing Islamic terror attacks. And this brings us to the terror attack over the weekend in New York City. So in New York City, outside of Gracie Mansion, that would be the mayor's residence, there was a large protest that was out there doing a whole lot of yelling and angry stuff at a smaller protest from some guys over on the far right. And an Islamic terrorist shows up and right over the shoulder of one of the weird socialist, left-wing policy pushers out there screaming, waving a flag. You see this guy run up over his shoulder and chuck an improvised explosive device, an IED.
We were born and raised in New York, and we want everyone here to stay in New York. You don't get to come from outside and then tell everyone else.
So there you have an individual run up and throw over this socialist agitator's shoulder an improvised explosive device. Now, thank God in heaven it did not go off. And that's going to become a little more important here in a couple of minutes. I do want to show you the first. As soon as the individual throws the explosive, he runs away and grabs a second explosive. The police, who are apparently imported from London, are completely useless and essentially do a Scooby-Doo-esque running back and forth around the object in circles instead of just pushing the barriers aside and tackling the man who, I repeat, is throwing IEDs, which are smoking, that he is lighting. Here's the other clip. You can see him. He runs another one. The cops are doing just a little bit of the old kind of, which way are you going to go? Of the two, which were, by the way, later arrested, the announcement made by the Attorney General Pam Bondi. Again, we'll get to this guy here in just a minute. She announced that they charged the two ISIS-inspired terrorists who attempted to bomb a protest in New York City. Said, we will not allow ISIS poisonous anti-American ideology to threaten this nation. Our law enforcement officers will remain vigilant. Now, the immediate response was really, really, really weird and pathetic. So the socialist who the ISIS bomber threw the bomb over, that comes from the individual who was doing the shouting into the megaphone. That's Walter Masterson. Walter Masterson was in the middle of saying, as born and raised New Yorker, we welcome everyone to this city. When he threw that over my head, everyone is welcome here, he shouted. And then he posted before it, I still stand by it. Everyone in New Yorker is welcome, except this. And the media, as well as this guy, keep naming Jake Lang, who was just out doing a stupid small protest. Now, here's the really, really weird part. He starts making fun of the IED for not going off. But he didn't just say this terrorist is stupid. He can't even make an IED that works. He says, I cannot stress this enough. It was right near our feet and it did not look real. We just stood there laughing. Meanwhile, the incel femoids, which I guess is his term for the far right protesters, whatever, ran away, having been totally gesture-mogged. Their cortisol levels have yet to recover. Okay. If you do not run away or do any kind of protective measure, when someone lights something and throws it at your feet, you are not brave. You're an idiot. You're a fool. You're a naive fool. And by the way, media outlets tried to claim initially, especially some of the left-wing groups, that this was just a smoke bomb. Oh, just a smoke bomb, you know, a little silly string, all good fun. Nope. According to the officials from the New York City Police Department, from NYPD, as well as later on from federal investigators, this was an explosive device packed with, you guessed it, explosives, I know, shocker, and a bunch of shrapnel, nuts, bolts, nails, pieces of jagged metal, and perhaps glass, meant to kill a lot of people. And it just so happens that what was he chanting as he threw it? Well, he was chanting Allahu Akbar. What a big surprise. I'm shocked. Just,
oh, there's a big surprise. That's an incredible.
I'm just going to level with you. Islamic terror, whether stemming from a sleeper cell or not, is a persistent and considerable threat in the United States. Now, have no fear, dear friends. Zohran Mamdani, he is here, the mayor of New York City. He's out here to make something very, very, very clear. He says, yesterday, white supremacist Jake Lang organized a protest outside of Gracie Mansion rooted in bigotry and racism. Such hate has no place in New York City. It is an affront to our city's values and unity that defines who we are. What followed was even more disturbing. Wow, I mean, given the amount of detail he'd packed into naming the location, the individual, the details of the protest that started in front of Gracie Mansion, one might believe that he's really going to get into some of the details about this attempted IED terrorist bombing in New York City. You know, we will never forget. So here's how he describes it. What followed was even more disturbing. Violence at a protest is never acceptable. The attempt to use an explosive device and hurt others is not only criminal, it is reprehensible and the antithesis of who we are. And then he said he thanks the brave men and women of NYPD. And then they're monitoring the situation. Oh, thank God, you're monitoring the situation. Oh, incredible. Thank goodness. Oh, I am very relieved. Now, again, no mention that he shouted Allahu Akbar. Very clear to point out the ideological leanings of the protest that did not throw the bomb. And you know, why not actually get into this? Well, because, you know, I mean, if you point out Islamic terror, then you could be, you know, you could be participating in Islamophobia. And after all, as Norm Macdonald said, the worst thing that would happen if Islamists set off a dirty nuke in New York City would be all of the ensuing Islamophobia. Here's Zohran Mamdani.
Good morning. On Saturday, a protest was held outside Gracie Mansion, where I live with my wife, Rama. Neither of us were home at the time. This was a vile protest rooted in white supremacy entitled Stop the Islamic Takeover of New York City. I'm the first Muslim mayor of our city. Anti-Muslim bigotry is nothing new to me, nor is it anything new for the 1 million or so Muslim New Yorkers who know this city as our home. Ah,
yes, of course. So it's just like the trans shooting. A trans person goes through a school, a bar. A Muslim terrorist goes through a school, a bar, and shoots down a bunch of people, or throws explosive devices, or firebombs people in Boulder, Colorado, or drives through a group of people in Louisiana on New Year's Eve. Oh, but hey, I mean, you know, really the most important thing is that we protect the fragile egos of the trans community or the Islamic community. There is far more outrage today over Representative Andy Ogles from Tennessee tweeting out that the Islamic values are not compatible with the United States. From all over, every congressperson rushing to condemn, oh, they're so terrible. Mm-hmm. Very, very little on the threat of Islamic terror here in the United States. Radio crew will send you over to the commercial break. We're going to get into some of the really disturbing details here on the live stream. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. Now, of course, right away, it's very, very clear based on this report later on from the New York City, I believe from the police commissioner's office, on the past of these two individuals.
Qayyumi said in recorded post-arrest statements that he had watched ISIS propaganda on his phone and that his actions that day were partly inspired by ISIS. The complaint also details statements made by Amir Balat after his arrest. En route to the NYPD precinct, Balat made spontaneous statements without being questioned by NYPD officers that were captured on body-worn camera footage. He said, "This isn't a religion that just stands when people talk about the blessed name of the prophet. We take action, we take action."
Now, interesting. Again, I'm hearing from all the pro-clutching today that if you suggest that values of a faith which do not allow any kind of criticism or drawings of Muhammad, or, mention, that he married a 9-year-old. Well, he was engaged to a 6-year-old, and then when she hit puberty at 9, then he married her. That's terrible and so deeply Islamophobic. How could you say something like? But if you say, maybe if you get out there and attack people for any of the things that I just mentioned, that's not compatible here with values here in the United States, that you're the real bad guy. Think of all those hurt feelings. Yeah, that's some terrible stuff. Zohran Mamdani once faked crying. Don't you feel bad? His aunt, who was never in New York City, someone probably didn't actually maybe gave her the stink eye on the subway after 9/11. That's the real victims right there. The imaginary aunt or cousin or second roommate's forgotten employee. Yeah, that was on the subway. That's the real victim. Now, of course, here the guy is out being perp walked. This is footage from the New York Post. You can see him point to, he's pointing up, it's the points to Allah that comes with a lot of these individuals who are arrested before they commit suicide or when they blow themselves up or are shot in the middle of a large terror attack. They always do this point up, almost like they're on the baseball field, pointing up to God, this being specifically to Allah.
Why'd you throw the bomb?
He's so proud of himself.
Why'd you throw it?
Again, disgusting, awful, horrid, and kind of makes a pretty good argument for why we should fully fund the Department of Homeland Security, huh? Oh, but some middle-aged white woman on the left, her feelings are going to be hurt if you fund the Department of Homeland Security. After all, that's the real problem here. Now, as as Western Lensman, a good friend of the show, points out, the parents of the ISIS New York City bomb thrower own a $2.5 million Pennsylvania home. They're naturalized citizens from Afghanistan. So as he points out, you come to the United States from a hostile foreign nation, you live an abundant lifestyle, you gain citizenship, your kid is radicalized to commit violence on behalf of a foreign ideology, and then, hey, the New York City mayor gets up and repeatedly condemns white supremacy. The same one who, grew up in the big super fancy mansion with the mom who was a producer and the dad who was a fancy professor. Gee, I'm starting to see a bit of a trend here. Now, over on the media side of things, which we'll have to get to a little bit later, it was difficult to even find initial outlets to mention the Islamic nature of this terror attack at all. Now, again, I know that you're truly shocked by this. I'm of course not shocked by this because this is every single terror attack. If they don't immediately say that the assailant was a white supremacist, and sometimes they'll say that anyway, then it's almost always one of two different things. This time, the Islamist terrorist. We're going to swing back out, bring in Senator Banks. It's the Tony Kinnett cast. Don't y'all go anywhere.
The Tony Kinnett cast on 93 WIPC.
With a lot of the Senate doing, well, the stuff that the Senate is normally good for, it's kind of nice to actually have a guy putting some legislation forward, some things that matter, especially regarding the news that we've reported here on the show. And of course, the situation over in the Middle East. Senator Jim Banks, Indiana, glad to have you for a couple of minutes, sir.
Hey, good to be with you.
Well, let's hop right into it. Tell us a little bit about how the situation regarding the Delilah Law is progressing. I was surprised to see already we're seeing some checkpoints set up along some of the way stations, checking identification and commercial driver's license information. Give us a bit of a brief overview if you can.
Well, this is a national crisis. Indiana is seeing a lot of it because of where we are. We're the crossroads of America. And we have like the 5th highest amount of freight that travels over Indiana highways of any state in the country. So when you have Governor Newsom in California and blue states like Pennsylvania and New York, they hand out truck driving licenses or CDLs to illegals like candy. Of course, you're going to see them behind the wheel of a semi and crashing and tragically killing people. And it's happening way too often in our home state in Indiana. So the Delilah Law is something that President Trump called for in his State of the Union address. He had a beautiful 7-year-old girl, Delilah, up in the auditorium of the House, the gallery in the House for the State of the Union. And he introduced her and told her story. When she was 5 years old, she was hit in California by an illegal truck driver, severely injured. She will never be the same. She's recovered physically, but she's never going to be the same. I spent some time with her last week in my office, and so we've named the bill after her. But you could name this bill after literally hundreds of other people. We had 4 Amish men who were killed in Jay County, which is in northern Indiana, near where I live. We had a 64-year-old man killed a few weeks ago. We had a National Guard soldier killed last September who was driving a Humvee in a training exercise on an Indiana highway, and an illegal came up and swerved and knocked that Humvee off the side of the road, and the soldier was killed. So it keeps happening in our state, and it's long past time to do something about it. President Trump signed an executive order that says that all CDL exams need to be conducted in English in the country. The Delilah Law codifies that, makes that permanent, but also says that you can't give a CDL to an illegal, and you got to take it away from all of those who came here illegally, who are currently in a temporary status, take away the CDLs from them. Because at the end of the day, most of these drivers can't speak English. They can't read our traffic signs, and they never should be behind the wheel of a semi-truck to begin with. That's why I introduced it. And we have several co-sponsors. I would think that there would be bipartisan support for something as common sense as that to stop illegals from driving semi-trucks. Unfortunately, it's not. I mean, the Democrats seem to think it's okay because it's at the end of the day, it's their blue state governors who are causing this to happen.
You know, I mean, one would believe that given how excited some of these individuals are to be reading to children in libraries, that they might, take a bit of time to read, maybe some English lessons to those who are seeking to gain their commercial driver's license. But I guess reading and drag really only appeals to kids, at least as far as they're concerned. Well, the Save America Act, but not to get bogged down.
Let me stop you there, too. I mean, the Democrats talk all the time about how illegals come here and take jobs that Americans don't want to do. And that's just not the case when you're talking about these truck driving jobs are 6-figure plus jobs. I mean, you can make a lot of money as a truck driver in America, but those jobs are being taken away from Americans and being filled by illegals and foreigners who come here and steal those jobs from hardworking men and women. So that's another reason why we got to crack down on this. I mean, there's a direct correlation here to illegals taking away good paying jobs from Americans. And one of the reasons I introduced the Delilah Law.
So that's actually one of the reasons I wanted to shift over to the Save America Act. There's a trend among Americans wanting higher requirements for identification checks, not in a paper please way, because there's currently an epidemic individuals who are stealing the IDs of others, the social security numbers of others. Of course, we've seen the situations over on the West Coast regarding voting that's getting a little bit sketchy when it comes to the arguments against not requiring full and efficient ID to vote. Are we going to see the Save America Act brought up in the Senate for some kind of a talking filibuster, or is this going to be the convenient thing maybe we fall back to every couple of weeks after the most recent distractions ceased?
Well, I mean, this issue is not going away until we vote on it. I mean, this is a matter of the survival of our country, of ensuring the integrity of our elections, one of the most cherished traditions that we have. So we have to protect it. And the Save America Act does that. President Trump has called for the Senate to pass the Save America Act and nothing else. I mean, focus on it before our upcoming elections to make sure that illegals can't vote. So Senator Thune and Senate leadership has told us over and over again, they've guaranteed us that we will get an opportunity to vote on it. But the question is, what do you do about the pesky filibuster, the 60 vote rule? We know Democrats are going to vote against it. We know that some Republicans like Mitch McConnell oppose it. At this point, Tony, I don't even know if there are 50 votes for a tie for J.D. Vance to break a tie. We know that J.D. would break it in favor of it and to pass it. So the House passed it. It's time for the Senate to pass it too. And I'm all for whatever option it takes, the standing filibuster or change whatever current filibuster rules it takes to bring this to a majority vote because the integrity of our elections depends on it. To your point, I mean, what the Democrats did to flood this country with tens of millions of illegals, and we know they want to give them the right to vote. We know that's what Democrats want to do. They want to allow these illegals to vote for Democrats to give them permanent power. We can't let them get away with that. I saw polling today that not only does an overwhelming majority of Republican voters in America favor voter ID and the Save America Act, but so do a majority of Democrat voters. So this is something that everybody is for, except for Democrat senators and some Republicans like Mitch McConnell, who used to be for voter ID, that are now against it.
That's one of the things I wanted to ask you about. You referenced this fewer than 50 votes, perhaps getting it up there. And this is one of the things that I've noticed over the last couple of weeks specifically, where I'm seeing Republicans like Tom Tillis of North Carolina do a lot of pearl clutching over the tone and the attitude of individuals in the administration, complaining about Stephen Miller, Deputy White House Chief of Staff. I kind of believe, because we all know that Washington's a bunch of political theater here and there, can we not set aside some of the, man, I really wish his tone was better, to actually getting some of the legislation passed? Why are we doing this rigmarole circus holdup?
Yeah, but by the way, Stephen Miller is one of the greatest patriots of our time. He's a friend of mine. He's been a longtime advisor of mine. He's going to be around for a long time, whether Tom Tillis likes it or not. Stephen Miller is going to be an advisor to President Trump for the next few years. He's going to be an advisor of mine for longer than that, and play a big role in policy and in Washington, D.C. for a long time to come. So I'm proud to consider Stephen a friend, and those who want to see him go are going to be greatly disappointed because he's not going anywhere. But you're right. I mean, you have some of these Republicans who aren't running again. I mean, that's the big point here. They're not running again. They're not facing voters again. So this is payback time for them with Donald Trump, because they hate where Donald Trump has taken the Republican Party. They don't support where Donald Trump has taken this country, even though a vast majority of Americans do. And unfortunately, the Save America Act, which is again fundamental to our country and to our elections, could fall victim to someone complaining about something mean, a mean tweet or something that they didn't like that Donald Trump said a long time ago. It's unbelievable and ridiculous, but that's why we got to do whatever it takes to pass the Save America Act. The House already passed it. The Senate needs to pass it. The standing filibuster is one option on the table to get it through. We should explore every option possible to pass it to stop Democrats and illegals from manipulating our elections.
Last question here for you. On the shutdown of the DHS, obviously, even though ISIS funded through like 2029, still upset shutting down the Department of Homeland Security. Quick question just on this side of things. Do you see that coming to an end here in the next couple of weeks, or are we just going to experience the long TSA lines because of this Democrat holdout?
Well, we've had like a small handful of known terrorist attacks or attempts in the United States of America.
Right, far more important than a TSA line. You're right.
The war in Iran, and these Democrats, in the midst of all that, these Democrats have shut down the Department of Homeland Security. I mean, this is crazy. This is what DHS was invented for to begin with, and the Democrats shut it down in the midst of all of that. So shame on them. I hope this week they'll come to their senses. They got what they wanted, and firing Kristi Noem, the secretary, who she wasn't perfect and she made some big mistakes, but what President Trump and the administration have done over the last 13 or 14 months to secure the border after the Biden administration opened our southern border wide open and let tens of millions of illegals come into this country. There's a big success story here that's happened over the past year or so of the Trump administration to secure our border. And President Trump deserves a lot of credit for that. But the Democrats have shut down Department of Homeland Security. I was in the airport today. You had longer lines. You got TSA agents who aren't getting paid. FEMA shut down, and our Border Patrol is taking the brunt of it. And the Democrats are lying about it. I mean, they've made this about ICE agents. You're right. ICE is funded for the next year and a half. That's not what this is about. This is about picking on Donald Trump and stopping Donald Trump from fulfilling the agenda and the mandate that the voters gave him in the 2024 elections. So hopefully the Democrats will come to their senses and fund DHS so that all of these people can get back to their day jobs and do what they were hired to do, which is keep America safe.
Senator Jim Banks of Indiana, thanks for giving us a couple of minutes. Always appreciate the insights.
Have a good day.
All right, let's dig in for a couple of seconds on something that I didn't think I would have to share. I mentioned MS Now earlier because I want to get into some of this shutdown Democrat goofiness here. Just Mazie Hirono, ladies and gentlemen, regarding the Save America Act, the senator from Hawaii who laces must be too difficult for when it comes to tying shoes.
This is not about voter ID. Oh, stop that. That's like a total bullshit description of the SAVE Act. Let me just focus on one part of the SAVE Act. In order to register to vote, you're going to have to show different pieces of documents.
Oh, no! Say it ain't so.
So if you're, let's say, a woman who got married, changed your last name.
By the way, I appreciate how now they know what a woman is. All of a sudden, we all know the definition of a woman. If you're a woman and you've changed your last name, okay, I'm following.
And if your last name doesn't match the name on your birth certificate.
Okay, I mean, that's most people who change their name. I don't know, like a lot of Kayla Johnsons that are marrying Brad Johnson. I mean, I suppose that happens. But you might get a couple of questions. I mean, unless you're, in Minneapolis, but, I'm just throwing, okay.
You're not going to be able to register to vote.
So even her own staff had to put a little asterisk there. If you only bring those two documents, as in if you bring your old out-of-date social security card and birth certificate, and then you also bring your current driver's license and nothing else. Again, if you bring your current social security card and your birth certificate, then you're good. Like, you're fine. Incredible. Mazie Hirono is just what a real person right there. That is one real person.
You're not going to be able to register to vote. That I call stealing our votes.
Yes, because if you get married, then you're stealing the. Okay, well the voting is okay. We're gonna bring like the radio crew. My brain hurts, not as much as Mazie's though. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. Don't y'all go anywhere.
The Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. Before we send that radio crew off to the fine commercial pasture for the evening, the President of the United States also took a little bit of time today to discuss the Save America Act. And by hook or by crook, this is something that the Republican Senate is going to have to deal with. It's very difficult to pin a politician down. It's very difficult, very easy to just kind of give, deflecting answers here or there. But Thune's kind of backed into a corner. And the reason he's backed into a corner, as Senator Banks said, is that the Democrats are going to come in whenever they get power next and destroy the filibuster anyway. So what are we doing? Get the Save America Act passed. It's something everyone is a fan of in this country, unless you're slinging IEDs or support those that do. So in this case here, the President of the United States today for the Save America Act, and we're going to talk about how this has to do with what this has to do with the runoff election in Texas. Again, we never get to see direct cause and effect in politics quite like this, but this is definitely an exception. President Trump today.
But I want to thank House Republicans for passing another common sense measure, to me the easiest of all, the Save America Act, to protect our sacred American. Look at this. Look. It's the easiest thing we have. It's the easiest thing we have. Now, the problem is you call it the Save Act, and nobody knew what the hell the Save Act. Have you been seeing? I've been working overtime the last month. It's called the Save America Act. And I saw Schumer yesterday. We will stop Save America. He's getting killed. They can't do it. And then.
Now, I want to make this perfectly clear. The President of the United States in his State of the Union address made the Save America Act a priority. Republicans, through Speaker Mike Johnson in the House, as he said, we're going to keep on passing this until you finally do something with it. Senate Majority Leader John Thune is so nervous about perhaps Senator Tom Tillis, perhaps Senator Mitch McConnell. Again, the questions as to whether or not they're going to be able to get to 50, and then that's going to be a problem for Republicans in the midterm, because there are some primaries going on right now that are making people a little bit nervous. If you go and look at the social media for Senate Majority Leader John Thune, he's not talking about the Save America Act at all. He's not bringing it up for a vote at all. This brings us to a rather sticky situation regarding the Texas Senate runoff. So as you remember, in the Texas primary, the rules are you have to get at least 50% of the vote to win. If you don't, then it goes to a runoff election. So, of course, James Tallarico, the abortion transing individual who is being painted as some kind of a moderate, the paint is already wearing off. Not off quickly enough for David French from the New York Times not to make a fool out of himself again. But alas, he beat out Jasmine Crockett with more than 50%. He gets the nomination for the Democrats. On the other side of the aisle, you have Ken Paxton, the Attorney General, who's leading in the polls. He's got a bit of baggage, and therefore he's making some people a bit nervous. Then you've got Senator John Cornyn, currently in the seat. He's got a bit of a problem with, for example, common sense, Second Amendment, don't touch our guns style policies. You can do some decent stuff, but also, no, not so much. And then, of course, you had Representative Wesley Hunt, who I'm going to level with you. Now that primary is over and my candidate that I wanted can't win the election anymore, I wanted Wesley Hunt to win the election. But alas, we didn't get that. And so instead, what you have is Paxton, who has now really boxed Cornyn and Thune into a corner. So Paxton, knowing that a lot of people, and again, a lot of you like Paxton, a lot of you don't. I hear you. A lot of people disagree on things. That's totally fine there, Chief. But you have Paxton, who came out and did something rather brilliant politically. He said, you know what? I'll tell you what. Thune brings forward the Save America Act just to, again, request voter ID rules nationwide. I'll drop out of the race. You can have Cornyn. Fine. We won't even have to do this. No problem. No worries. Now, I had suggested something similar. I suggested Trump calls up Senator Thune, who wants Cornyn endorsed by Trump, and say, listen, Thune, I know you got problems. Here's what we're going to do. You're going to bring up the Save America Act right now, and then I'll endorse Cornyn for you. Why not? I suggested he do something like that. Essentially, Paxton did kind of the same thing through a little bit of reverse Uno card situation. And Thune hasn't brought up the Save America Act. He's complaining about the DHS shutdown, which again, important, absolutely. Not as important in this case as the Save America Act. It is something that is just get it right through there. Get senators on the record for it. Get them on the record. See the Republicans, which vote yes and vote no. Some of them are in primaries. Sounds like it would be kind of a useful thing to have on the record. But that's not the case. So right now we're in a very interesting place because according to the Texas Public Opinion polling organization, is the Texas Public Opinion poll, the Texas Senate runoff right now, if you do not have a Trump endorsement, Ken Paxton is at 49, John Cornyn is at 41, not sure 11%. Now, I don't know if you know anything about math, but 49 plus 41 is 90. I'm not sure how we're getting 101% on that poll. It's a C-rated pollster, but it is the only poll we have at the moment, so just keep that in mind and in math. However, if Trump endorses Paxton, Paxton's at 58%, John Cornyn's at 32%. However, if Trump endorses Cornyn, Paxton at 44, Cornyn at 43, and then not sure 13%. Now, those numbers are correct there. It's a lot closer of an election if Trump endorses someone different. Now, right now, I haven't seen any endorsement from President Trump. I haven't seen any. And by the way, yes, I agree with our Ohio correspondent. When they don't round the numbers correctly, you get something exceeding 100% on these polls. But alas, what I want to make clear here is that there's an opportunity for Thune to get Cornyn, who, by the way, would be more electable than Tallarico. He would be. On an actual electability level, an easier election, that's the easier path. Now, again, a lot of people like Paxton because they don't see him as a squish. You had your chance for the kind of traditional conservative. You threw that out the window. So we don't want a traditional conservative with a great record, combat veteran, helicopter pilot. We don't want that. What we want is either Ken Paxton, who's going to get out there and yell. Sometimes he yells about good things. Sometimes, Or we get Cornyn, who is about as exciting as oatmeal and about as trustworthy as Flint tap water. Neat, okay? which do you really want here? Well, it's not exactly cut and dried. Now, for a lot of y'all down in the Lone Star State, for you, it's cut and dried. I respect that. From the pundit's position over here, a lot less so. Where Trump's endorsement goes here matters. Trump's endorsement matters in the primary. Trump's endorsement does not matter in the general at all. A lot of people think it does. We have a lot of electoral data to show it does not. So it's a really weird place right now for Senate Majority Leader John Thune, because this will likely be the issue that breaks him this year. Now, we have no idea who's going to replace Thune. This is the thing that people who want to just like get rid of the speaker or get rid of the majority leader forget, that there's a whole series of elections that you and I don't really get to take part in. You don't know who you're going to get. You could get someone great. You could get someone that's kind of like AIDS. You really don't want that. So it's a question toss-up this year. You need to start, if senators want to play the nobility class who want to be actors and all be future presidential candidates, then they kind of got to get on the record about some stuff. This is something that I've appreciated. Banks will come on the show, give me the record straight, down the barrel, to the point, even if I don't agree with it, which is rare, but he'll give me the record straight up to the point. I prefer that to whatever this futzing around from Schumer is today, where he gets the SAVE Act and Doge confused. Radio crew, we'll catch you guys later. We know you have the commercial to get to. We're going to continue on the live stream for some bonus tonus for the show. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on The Daily Signal. All right, now they're off to their yeehaw, good, happy end of show broadcast break. Look at Schumer here, struggling. Easiest political target in history, and Republicans won't actually move on it. But, you know, we'll give Schumer a chance here. After all, Republicans are kind of doggy paddling.
This is one of the nastiest pieces of legislation that I've ever seen. It is going back to the old South, where people were prohibited from voting, and spreading it to every corner of America.
No. The people who were prohibited in voting in Jim Crow laws were certain extra hurdles that you had to jump based on things like certain literacy tests, property ownership tests, a bunch of other things that often fell on racial lines. Whereas this would require you as a United States citizen to prove you're a citizen. That's it. That's the whole thing. In eras where a lot of states are giving driver's licenses to those who are not citizens. It might be useful if you go to register to vote and you have a driver's license, you're not a citizen. It would be nice if they said, hey, I see you're registering to vote here. You're not a citizen. I'm afraid not. No, thank you. It sounds like common sense to me. Schumer doesn't think so. Again, very easy political victory for the Republicans. So, of course, they're running away from it like, you know, I don't even have an analogy. It's just embarrassing.
It is Jim Crow 2.0. And when Trump says that he will not sign any legislation until Congress passes Doge, Mr. President, we ain't passing Doge. You are calling for gridlock.
So a couple of things here that I really enjoy. First of all, the Senate was created for gridlock. I hate to break this to you. That's kind of how the Senate is supposed to be. The Senate is really supposed to not pass legislation, flipping things back and forth every single day. Chuck doesn't know that. Chuck doesn't know that really what Americans don't want is the federal government crammed in their faces every second of the ding-dong-dang day. A lot of Americans don't want that. That's why a lot of you listen or tune in or watch to this show. I sit in the festering bathwater of politics all day, so hopefully, I pray, you don't have to. So that would be the first thing. Number two, if we're going to do the Trump is old and decrepit and, oh, he's got Alzheimer's and he's forgetting things all the time and, oh, he mixed up Greenland and Iceland, then Chuck Schumer getting up there and confidently saying Doge 2, 3, 4 times in a row should be a cause for concern. But you're not hearing anything from Democrats, right? Of course you're not. But you already knew they were hypocritical on this. I mean, we all remember that from the Biden age.
In the entire Congress, and none of the bills that will help reduce the costs to people for prescription drugs, for electricity, for home ownership.
I love that. Just that little piece there. Democrats saying, you know what, we have bills that would reduce the cost of electricity. What bill exactly from the Democrats? Seriously, if there are any over on the left in the comments, if you would please do share to me. What bill do you have that lowers the cost of energy? What bill? What do you have? Anything? There's no bill the Democrats have put forward ever, whether from Bernie Sanders or from the Bill Clinton kind of populist leftist group. No bill the Democrats have put forward increases the amount of power in this country. It is one of the biggest issues over on kind of the young left. The young left is splitting into two directions. And right now, the smaller portion that is dying away very quickly, even so, this Ezra Klein abundance policy, where essentially you do build a bunch of stuff and then do the social policy, it's being scrapped so that instead you can do the immigration chants and the bomb throwing. The Green Bill that they have put forward was projected by even the left-wing groups, not just in the short term, but in the long term, to raise the cost of electricity dramatically. There is no green energy solution, because I know you never include nuclear. Nuclear, if you want to talk about really environmentally safe practices, nuclear energy is ridiculously safe. The impact is ridiculously small. It is extremely scalable. It is extremely safe. And then we could use all of our petroleum products to lower the cost of goods and services elsewhere. For example, repurposing coal to be used in asphalt paving so that we don't have to repurpose some of our petroleum products in order to do so. But that's another topic for another time. I'm just going to level with you here. It's a very easy thing right now here in the midterms. A lot of people are saying that the many such cases of people saying the midterms are going to be really rough. Democrats, the chances on the gambling websites, the chances Democrats retake the House and the Senate, they're getting higher and higher and higher. And that is true. And the reason that is true is because Republicans won't take the win. A lot of Republicans won't take the win. Send the Save America Act through. Pass the bill. You don't have to pass everything the president suggests on through Congress. You don't have to. But this thing that the vast majority, the super majority of Americans in all political parties, except for Bernie Sanders and the Democratic Socialism, everyone's for it. No, heavens, why would you get in there and actually, do anything in Congress? Just get out there and run another campaign. I have given Thune all of the benefits of the doubt, all of them. I've said, hey, yeah, absolutely. Democrats, when they get into office, as soon as power flips over, they pass the most radical, insane, far to the left legislation that has ever been seen. Republicans get into office and do nothing. They put a big, huge, cobbled together garbage super package through of all of these pieces of legislation the Democrats help write that's filled with all of this garbage that, as Tim Burchett of Tennessee pointed out, actively funded Al-Qaeda. But we don't want to get out there. Tom Tillis starts screaming about Kristi Noem. I didn't like Kristi Noem personally. I've been calling for her to do something else and be less embarrassing for a while. We'll get to that in the mail time. If you've had a few questions about that. And also Corey Lewandowski, her man whore, here in a couple of minutes. But aside from the Noem stuff, Republicans, if they don't actually want to do any winning here, well, yeah, Trump can declare national emergencies, but that's not stable and that's not going to do everything. You kind of need a legislature to do legislative stuff. So when I say that Democrats get into power and they just start getting through all of the most radical legislation they can, Virginia Democrats have now passed and have sent to Abigail Spanberger's desk a gun control bill proposed by Bangladesh Senator Saddam Aslan Salim that would ban assault weapons, which means nothing. Like assault weapons, there's no such thing as an assault weapon. But here is Saddam Aslan Salim talking about this bill that they are now sending to Spanberger's desk, who, knowing Spanberger, is going to sign it because she's Abigail Spanberger. And they ran her as a moderate, and she's going to govern as a super far leftist because this is what they do.
Look at us to say we are one of the reasons why they don't have to go through those drills, because we made sure that a place that they call schools or home, wherever it may be, is a safe place. So, Madam President, with that, I ask and renew my motion that we agree and concur with the House amendments.
The question is, shall the Senate concur?
And the Senate concurs. I'm going to save you the time of the long, drawn-out Robert's Rules of Order that everyone clings to desperately like a child's safety blanket when it turns out to do absolutely, unequivocally nothing. Nothing at all. Now, moving on, I do want to get into a couple of other things this evening here. So first of all, this is just insane. Regarding the New York terror attack, Al Sharpton and then Representative Meeks talking about the terror attack, listen to how they describe it. Listen to how it is they frame this up. See if you can check out what's missing from the guy who shouted Allahu Akbar and threw 2 IEDs crammed with shrapnel.
Yesterday, during clashes in New York City between anti-Islam demonstrators led by conservative influencer Jake Lang and a much larger group of counter-protesters, a lit device was thrown just outside of the official residence of Mayor Zohran Mamdani.
Listen to how they're describing it. They're making this appear as though it is the right-wing group that threw an IED at Mamdani's house. That is how you frame something dishonestly. Notice no conversation, nothing about the Allahu Akbar, the guy that was arrested, the other guy that was arrested, handing him the devices. Nothing about that. They're going to make sure to name the right-wing groups, though, because, that's the real threat.
And today, the chief of police said that it was, in fact, an improvised explosive device that could have caused serious injury. What are your thoughts of the growing fear of political violence, especially in this election year, Congressman?
I am very concerned. Political violence has no place in our society. It destroys our democracy and the very things that we stand for. As you've indicated, Reverend Sharpton, we just came back from Chicago, where we celebrated the life of the Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson, and how he talked about everybody's somebody, and you got to love somebody, you got to keep hope alive, you got to keep this democracy alive.
Okay, I'm going to let you in on a little secret, because he just does this, like, going to love somebody, keep somebody, hug somebody, reach out and touch somebody. Just as a little bit of a fun fact here, the culture that says openly, if you slam Muhammad, if you point out Muhammad, their prophet, was wed to a 9-year-old girl, we will kill you if you say that. If you draw him, we will kill you. If you disparage radical Islam, we will kill you. If you say that, we'll kill you. It turns out that those people not interested in loving somebody and hugging somebody and giving somebody some skin, nobody's interested in that crap in that particular culture. Now, I do want to get over to a bit of mail time this evening, but we have a little more news to cover. So just before we get to that, I want to talk a little bit about some of the kind of conspiracizing, because I've gotten a lot of questions if I've seen certain things. And on the podcast sphere, I've been a little confused as to why the show has been growing. I'm going to level with you. I don't think that the takes that I'm always delivering are super up there, ethereal, high academia. I don't. I think a lot of them are, as I try to portray, kind of common sense, down-home Hoosier stuff that a lot of people are thinking, and just breaking down the big news and current trends to those of you who don't spend all day dealing with it. And unlike a lot of evening shows that I'm up against, we don't write ours at 11:30 a.m., or share them, we don't write the show 30 minutes beforehand either and then talk about alien conspiracy theories the entire time instead of talking about the news. So instead, I'm noticing that a lot of other competition that I have is a lot less of the Hugh Hewitt or the daily news style, here's what's going on, here's a little bit of analysis, kind of the Scott Jennings, that kind of frame, that kind of commentator, news analyst, whatever, and a lot more of just the insane, crazy nonsense that doesn't deliver the news, but instead gives you a straight morphine IV drip of the most insane things that you've ever heard in your entire life. So I know we've talked about Tucker, this again, former friend of mine who, after I was fired from Indianapolis Public Schools for exposing critical race theory as the science coordinator, the administrator over science in the district, Tucker reached out. He said, hey, I'm really sorry this has happened to you. He had me on a show twice with Jesse Waters. And in the second time, he implored that Jesse have me on right after I was fired instead of, right after the initial scandal. And was very nice for a long time, told me a little bit about how to do some of the show running myself, including the kind of things to put on the little teleprompter button boxes for how I control scenes. Was very nice. And a couple of months ago, he then desisted into complete and utter madness and started a bunch of insane Islamist propaganda and just started going whole hog after evangelicals in the United States. Said he hates those people. He doesn't like those people more than anyone, which is a little ironic because he, again, 2 years ago at the Heritage Foundation 50th, when he was giving the keynote, says, "I know nothing about theology as an Anglican. Never ask me anything about theology." But now he's a theological expert. Admitted until a couple of months ago he never even read the Bible. But alas, he's gone down even a slipperier slope than I thought possible. Because after he announced that there were Mossad agents that were sneaking around Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, Bahrain, and they were doing explosive. Now, of course, everyone in the Middle East has their phone out and they're watching the missiles from Iran either blow up in the sky or sail down to the ground and explode. So it's not as though this is happening in the middle of forlorn nowhere. Every camera in the region is pointed here. So he's saying, Mossad is blowing up all of these things, the Jews. And even Qatar had to come out and say, Tucker, you're retarded. Nope, didn't happen. Stop saying stupid stuff. And also, the country that you just bought a house in, maybe you shouldn't insult its national security at the same time. But he came up with a new theory today that was even somehow more unintelligent. He suggested that the Habad, which is just like some Orthodox Jewish dudes, the one in like the thick coats and hats and like the curly sideburns and things, that these guys are the ones, these dudes, that's who really convinced Trump to strike Iran. See, they were out in front of the White House and they were drawing the Star of David in the South Lawn. And then they chanted kosher, kosher, and over, and that convinced Trump's like, oh my goodness, I got to do it. Launch the Iranian strikes. This is the most insane thing I have heard since the last time Candace Owens went live. I wanted to share it with you.
So how exactly did the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, a military that the U.S. taxpayer pays for, that lots of wealthy Americans send money to friends of the IDF, how did all these guys wind up wearing patches suggesting the point of this war was the destruction of one of the holiest places in Islam and the rebuilding of a temple that is totally anathema to Christianity?
So first of all, no, the third temple is not an anathema to Christianity. Just to be clear, I know I was going to wait till the end. So his thing is that the United States and Israel, which you will remember last year had the whole 12-day war thing where they could have struck things, like where they could have done, a lot of the striking and such, that Israel, who has refrained from blowing any temples up, he's now trying to suggest that the Mossad Habad, thank you God, crew, got out there to try to trick Iran into blowing up the super duper mosque to bring about the third temple.
Like, how did this happen? Well, there are a lot of ways it happened. The main way it happened is because no one in the United States noticed, because it's such a secular place, and as noted, we have eyes but can't see and ears and can't hear, but this has been going on a long time in public through, in part, the efforts of a group called Habad, C-H-A-B-A-D. And you may...
The Habad. Oh, no. No.
I know people who give money to Habad or run to Habad, super nice people.
Yeah, like a telethon. Oh, no.
Engaged in all kinds of charitable activities, drug rehab. There's a lot about Habad that's really good. But what is Habad exactly? Well, Habad, you can look it up, is a very old organization, about 250 years old. And it's a branch of Hasidic Judaism. It's an organization that was overseen for many years by a guy called Rabbi Menachem Schneerson, who was famously in Brooklyn, considered the Messiah by some of his followers, who was a friend of presidents, or certainly someone presidents visited. He was a very powerful man in the Orthodox and the Hasidic community. And he was the overseer of Habad, which predated him and outlasted him, but he was its most visible ambassador.
Okay. We want to get to the point, like as to, what it actually is that you're suggesting here. So you're saying Habad, in an effort to blow up the mosque on the Temple Mount site. That's what the Iran strike is all about.
And Habad has been pushing in a pretty subtle way, unless you look carefully.
Oh, unless you look carefully. Okay. So first you got to put on your safety super specs, the X-ray vision specs that you got, with the same decoder ring, Drink Your Ovaltine comic book you had to order it from, right? And then after you adjust the aluminum foil on your head, and then ground yourself by tying a wire to your leg and shoving it in your lawn, then you too will see that Habad, in their latest telethon, were dialing the secret Davidic chords from Hallelujah to trick Trump into striking Iran.
For the reconstruction of the Third Temple. And it seems like, from the reading we did recently, that those patches actually came from Habad.
I love it. It's stupid. So here we go. Candace Owens is like, well, the Egyptian fighter pilots flying secretly into the United States convinced Habad. And I love it. Megyn Kelly's gone down this same track. It's just embarrassing. It's ridiculous. Again, as someone who used to have quite a bit of respect for Megyn Kelly, she's also now dropped yours truly over on social media. It's very, very, very upset because people are not nice to Tucker or Candace. I mean, it's because they're retarded, and Megyn Kelly's become a coward. But just throwing it out there. If you have your head up your own rectum, it turns out you can't see very much. Now, I do want to point out one thing that is a little funny here. Just something from me to you here. We also share a lot of the rating space with the Breaking Points podcast crew. And old Benny Shapiro made a point today that there are some folks who, whenever it comes time to discuss, again, a serious foreign policy issue that a lot of us have questions about or serious interests in, or what the result's going to be, what's going to happen afterward, what's the plan stand. Instead, the conspiracy theorists come out. Stephen Kent, you know him from What You Watch, and good friend of the show, he sent this over my way, and it's just too good not to play. Here is, again, the outline of what a lot of the people out there are doing, who are doing the conspiracy-thizing, and then a literal interview from Breaking Points over the last couple of days. Check it out.
Politicians now fear saying true things for fear of upholding that supposedly conspiratorial system. Conspiratorial thinking is, in its essence, anti-establishment in the fullest sense.
If you look at the Epstein files, it's clear that we are run by secret societies. It's clear that the world is run by these individuals who have a lot of power. We don't know who they are.
So the juxtaposition that's going to be made here, you have Ben Shapiro outlining very clearly earlier on in the day. All right, here's kind of the deal. Oh, I just realized, by the way, we have the State of the Union Chiron on screen. That's not the right Chiron that I want on. What are you going to do? You have one outline here, making it rather clear. There are those out there who have bent themselves into weird croissants over the idea that the United States, the entire world, everyone that you know is secretly controlled by uber-duper secret pedophiles, and that's why we struck Iran. And then the primary foreign policy guest they bring over on, for example, Breaking Points, is literally a dude saying that exact thing word for word. It's wild.
If you believe the moon landing wasn't real, you believe that every single person in your life, from your parents to your teachers to television to books to the government, has been lying to you.
They control the military. They control the national security apparatus. And these people, there are different names for these people. You can call them the Illuminati.
If you believe that Vladimir Putin blackmailed Donald Trump, you believe that our system is so moth-eaten with corruption and evil that no one can put it right. The system has to be torn to shreds. When that feeling runs strong in voters, politicians fear to speak the truth. Because if you speak the truth, like, for example, the moon landing happened and the Holocaust did happen and Donald Trump was, in fact, shot in the ear by somebody who is not a fan of Donald Trump. If you say that sort of stuff, it is now perceived as an establishmentarian act. If you say that men are not women, as a Democrat, you're saying that the system actually has been telling you the truth your whole life. And that tends to uphold the system. If you say that the border ought to be controlled, you're saying the system deserves to be upheld. And that upholds the system. If you say Israel isn't an apartheid state and that America is right to strike Iran, you're saying that the West is fundamentally better than Iran, and that burnishes the system.
Jesuits, who control the Vatican. You have the Sephardim Frankists, which control the modern state of Israel today. And you have the Freemasons, which control the national security apparatus.
The Freemasons. Ah, yes. Yes, the old guys that are meeting together in my town to do small-level charity. Yeah, the guy who clearly needs a new hip, who's the warden of the South. Yeah, clearly, that guy, that dude is secretly controlling the national security apparatus. You've solved it. Well done. Absolutely. Incredible. Love it. Thrilling. Exciting. Nonsense. And as one of the comments points out, it's just having a they. As long as there's a they you can point to that controls everything, it's comforting, because then you don't have to try and figure out things for yourself. You don't have to win any elections. You don't have to do anything that actually moves the needle. You can be like Nick Fuentes, who gets out there and says, I'm done with Trump. I'm going to vote for Democrats because they believe in me. Stupid nonsense. People who take those individuals seriously are also stupid. There's no way around it at this point. It can't get any more blatant or any more obvious at this point. Now, Again, we can point out the left going all the way down into this. It's not even a rabbit trail at this point. It's a festering sewer. So here is Jennifer Welch, I believe Joy Reid as well.
Motivates them. So
yeah, Joy Reid, Jennifer Welch, their new conspiracy theory, against just like the Candace Tucker kinds of conspiracy theories, is that J.D. Vance is going to wake up one morning, realize that all of this is a weird ruse, that his marriage and his children that he has with his wife, Usha. Instead, he's really going to go after Erica Kirk. This is why Charlie was killed, so J.D. Vance could get out of an interracial marriage or something. They believe this. Look at Joy Reid's face as she communicates this to the audience and to Jennifer Welch, one of the two Botox blonde ladies next to her, who thinks it's so funny they cough up their own pancreas.
They can't have the successor to MAGA be the guy with the brown Hindu wife. They're also Christian nationalists. That ain't gonna work. That's why he's throwing his wife under the bus. Poor Usha. Or she's in on it, right?
And she's playing slap and tickle with Erica Kirk's the weirdest shit I've ever seen. Yeah, she's like in her Tammy Faye era.
Okay. Holding on the back of his head and rubbing on his head.
Some weird shit.
Baby. Don't do that to Jason. I'm gonna start thinking something's going on. Why you holding the back of his head?
Okay. There you go. I'll remind you that these women, if anyone ever said anything about Michelle Obama, lost their mind. Jennifer Welch once went on a 35-minute rant because someone asked if there was a banana in Michelle Obama's pocket, or they were just happy, or she was just happy to see him. Went on a 35-minute rant about that. The conspiracy nonsense that is somehow now mixed with pearl clutching, as though if you say anything against this kind of conspiratorial nonsense that you're somehow anti-Catholic. It's ridiculous, it's retarded, it's stupid. Don't buy into it. Don't even spend your time on that kind of garbage. Now, that said, I do want to bring in a couple of great mail time questions today, because there's some other bits of criticism that I've levied that a few of you have had a couple of questions about. So first of all, from Terry Miller, dear friend of the show, we really do appreciate her. She says, hey, could you please explain how Kristi Noem was bad at her job? I can't seem to figure out what she did bad. Okay. Noem came in with the Trump administration and had a very difficult job in front of her to get the Homeland Security apparatus in front of her to a position that was no longer full of holes and working against the United States itself. And initially, she did a pretty good job, because in the appointment and the delegation stage, in which you are appointing key individuals to get out in front of people and do very, very important things, I'm just going to make this rather clear. It's a difficult job, and she did a pretty admirable work at first. She got out there. She, again, put a lot of right people in place. She got a lot of funding where it needed to go. Then she kind of leaned into the internet celebrity nonsense. And she started doing things that, while again, in base core policy are not super bad, but it just makes you question what in the world you're doing as the Secretary of Homeland Security. So she flew down to CCOT, the El Salvador prison, stood up a bunch of guys in front of the jail bars who were not deported criminals from the United States.
Tonight, the Homeland Security Secretary beyond the border. Kristi Noem under heavy guard in El Salvador.
Now, again, the news was never going to cut her a break on this. It's NBC Nightly News. But knowing that the media is going to treat you this way, why put yourself right in the crosshairs? Which is exactly what she did, and I pointed that out at the time.
Here at CCOT today and visiting this facility. And first of all, I want to thank
Why? Why are you touring the facility? Why? You don't need to go down there. There's no reason you as the Secretary of Homeland Security needs to go tour a prison. There's none at all. It's a media routine. It's silly. And the expenditures on it are silly as well.
The United States of America to bring our terrorists here and to incarcerate them and have consequences for the violence that they have perpetuated in our country.
I can't stand this. I can't stand it. And the reason I can't stand it, to be very clear with you, I don't like any politician getting up and going, you know what, I need some camera time. If you want my job, if you want to be a pundit, come be a pundit. Awesome, cool, great, excellent. I don't need the I don't have anything else to do, or maybe I'm not in front of camera enough. Everyone's talking about Marco Rubio. Everyone's talking about Hegseth. Everyone's talking about Bessent. I got to get in front of a camera. I don't care for that. The American people do not care for that. When it comes to what Kristi Noem did wrong, however, and I want to make this clear, it was the $220 million ad and Corey Lewandowski. These are the two big ones. She did a lot of things that were okay. She did a lot of stuff regarding, again, initially getting out and saying, oh, Renee Good was a domestic terrorist right off the bat that was ill-advised. The reason it was ill-advised is that there was no investigation yet. It's just not good practice. But there were two things that could not be forgiven. Both of them we covered on the show. Number one, Kristi Noem brought in Corey Lewandowski, who she's having an affair with. She is married to another man she has 3 kids with. She's having an affair with Corey Lewandowski, brought her little man whore in, and started giving him the power to give a bunch of orders to people around the Department of Homeland Security, which pissed off a lot of veteran law enforcement, including Tom Homan and individuals in charge of Border Patrol in the country. Because he has no purpose, he has no business there. He's already been fired by Trump once. Why is he here? That's big boo-boo number one. That has been festering for months. You want to say, what did she do? What did she do? That's what she did. Bringing in your affair to be in your little government, stupid. No, that's garbage crap. Get out of here. No. Oh, but I don't care if you really like her. I think she did okay things. That does not excuse the fact that you're bringing in your little boy toy who's incompetent and a big moron and is pissing off the actual good law enforcement because you want him to have a special little place here. It's so wonderful, great. No. The big boo-boo, of course, what Senator Kennedy from Louisiana was roasting her over was signing off on an ad that just reads like a presidential campaign ad for Kristi Noem. So she's riding the horse.
I love these wide open spaces. They remind me of why our forefathers came here.
Why are you, as the Secretary of Homeland Security, when we have stuff to do, there are raids that need to take place, there are measures of Border Patrol, Immigration Customs Enforcement, there are terrorist threats, there are Antifa, there are transgender terrorists who are shooting up schools when she was recording this. Why are you know why I love the outdoors? No, I don't care. I would assume as the governor of one of the Dakotas, you probably like the outdoors. Good, that's great, that's fine. Why are you spending $200 million on an advertisement for you to ride a horse?
Not just for its beauty, but for the freedom only America provides. I'm Kristi Noem. From the cowboys who tamed the West, to the titans who built our cities, to the dreamers who chase the impossible, America has always rewarded vision and grit.
So then there's the I support President Trump.
Our greatness calls people to us.
Our greatness calls people to us. And she finishes out, I'm not going to play the rest of the ad. She says, hey, don't come here illegally. Come here illegally, then we're come here legally, then we're happy and you can stay welcome home. Okay, I'm going to level with you. Who's that ad for? Who's the ad for? Who? To whom is that ad for? Who are you convincing with that? Why are you running it? And she said, well, President Trump, charged me with getting the message out. And you spent $220 million on you riding a horse around? And then, again, the kiss of death. What she really, really, really said wrong. What she really, really, really said wrong. I'm sorry, there's a comment that really just took me out of it. Chasey Chip said Noem should have showed her feet. Ugh. What she really did wrong is she said Trump personally approved it, which makes Trump look bad. And he said, no, you're out of here. Now people again are saying, oh, it's a sideways promotion. She was sidewaysingly promoted. No, stop it. Don't do that to yourself. She was given a very gracious exit by Donald Trump. Very gracious, very, very, very graciously. To be the envoy, the special envoy to the Shield of the Americas. Okay. And yeah, I agree with the comments. The ad was very, very, very clearly a Kristi Noem wants to run in a future election kind of thing. Whether that be for senator, whether that be for president in 28, that's what that was. Sorry. And again, I'm not going to shed a single tear for Corey Lewandowski, who I've despised for a very good long time, getting a firm boot. I hope the door hit him on the way out. I'm sorry. As a child who grew up in a broken home, I don't care for infidelity one bit. So that aside, I do want to move to another mail time question where I'm perhaps not as aggravated, perhaps. There is a criticism that I will address here. I was contacted after an article that I wrote about what's likely to come down the pike in Iran. I pointed out that the MEK, which goes by the like the National Council of Resistance for Iran. I pointed out that, first of all, they're Marxists, because they are, and that the Chinese and the Turks and the Russians are likely going to try to fund either them or someone in the regime that will be willing to fracture off, but is also willing to slaughter the Kurds. I pointed out that the Marxist group, the MEK, whose leader is hiding in a bunker like a coward in Albania and doing little Zoom conferences, that's going to be Russia and China and Iran's pick. Now, the foreign minister, or I guess the Foreign Affairs Committee for the National Council of Resistance of Iran, again, this would be the National Council of Resistance of Iran, that would be the MEK. So the MEK really didn't care for my description of the MEK and said it's not Marxist. So he wrote me this big, long paragraph about how he really didn't like it. And he said, for the record, she lives in Paris, not Albania. I do, in fact, stand corrected. She shuttles back and forth from Paris to her bunker in Albania, and when in Paris, stays with known socialist agitators and Islamic terrorists. So sorry I missed that detail. Again, he suggests that she, and therefore the MEK, is aggressively free market. When you are advocating for state-run businesses, you are not free market. Hope this helps. Ali Safavi. So sorry you didn't like my article in which I said the only good communist is a dead communist. Enjoy, and may you and your entire group certainly find the burning sands of which you have earned. So that aside, a little final nice question for the end of this particular episode of the Tony Kinnett Cast. Excuse me. We do have a couple of really nice super chats. I do not ask you guys to donate to the show at all. Mark V11 sent a $5 super chat in and said, Democrats have never heard of a marriage certificate or a divorce decree. That's true. No one knows how to get those things, I'm told. From Aris Athena, a $2 super chat, again, very, very nice, says, Candace Tucker, etc., make money off of fear. Yeah, that's correct. Absolutely correct. The same people who told you that Republicans wanted to institute Don't Say Gay and Chuck Schumer's Jim Crow 2.0, where they lie about things in order to get you to freak out. The same people, the exact same brand of thought in which people say that kind of nonsense are those who are telling you that this is going to be a forever war and Trump's going to get us into nuclear war and we're going to reinstitute the draft. Oh, it's going to be terrible. No, not at all. And you can see the same thing, by the way. I do have a clip for this, by the way. Mehdi Hassan, an Islamist and China defender who is a horrible, horrible, horrible human being, was on the news over, I believe, the weekend, I think yesterday, on MS Now, suggesting that what the United States is doing right now is actually worse than the Nazis. So we had the Nazis, now we have worse than the Nazis. Here's Mehdi Hassan.
Just from the sort of geopolitical strategic point,
So here's Chris Hayes, who is like me, but with way less testosterone and no beard. Not to be redundant.
Day one, to have this and to have the rhetoric being into the region, we don't care if you live or die, to not make the distinction between civilians and combatants, just also strikes me as wildly self-defeating at just the sort of tactical level.
Yes. It's a moral abomination, and yes, it's tactically stupid. They bombed a submarine and just let the sailors drown to death. Going again, even the Nazis didn't do that during World War II, apparently.
Even the Nazis saved people sinking in boats. By the way, the Nazis operating in German submarines, the U-boats, no, they didn't rescue sailors. That's not a thing. Submarines that sink large craft often do not rescue those who are then sinking on the large craft. I hate to break it to you. Submarine warfare in the wide world doesn't operate on some 1750s Legion of Gentlemen Officers School. If you go and toss out the dinghies, I say, good chap, your boat seems to have exploded. That's not a thing. No.
Even the Nazis collected people from the water. This is insane rhetoric, insane behavior from people who don't give a damn. Donald Trump has never given a damn about Iranian lives. I see people in the...
This man, along with the wife of Zohran Mamdani, who made fun of those who were raped on October 7th. who have made fun of the terror attacks here in the United States. I'm just saying, I wouldn't particularly go and, get out my my bit of, my advice from these fine individuals. But hey, Darth Bobcat sent in a $5 super chat earlier that I didn't quite get to, and I apologize. It was a Dragon Ball Z reference, I suppose, asking if were the heroes completely stomped villains they've prepared to fight for 3 years? Did we overtrain? If this is about the United States completely and utterly wrecking the Iranian Navy and military just in general, the did we overtrain argument, here's one of the ships that we sent to the bottom of the sea. Yeah, that's gone, boys and girls. To answer that sort of question there, did we overtrain? No, we didn't overtrain, but there are people who believe that our opponents, because Russia and China and Iran and Venezuela and Cuba will say, oh yes, we have very many big weapon, American, very big weapon. It go boom all over Washington, D.C. You will cry in street. It will boom, explode, boom. And Americans will take that seriously and order the boys over at the Skunk Works to develop something truly stinky. And it turns out that once we do go up against the air defenses from Russia and China, which suck, Chinese technology sucks. The communists are bad at what they do. The Putin regime is bad at what they do. Well, they've been wrecking Ukraine recently. Okay, yeah. If you can't conquer a corrupt Eastern European country by yourself, I don't know what to tell you there, bud. Gee. It's almost like some of these countries that pretend to be better than the United States are really, really, really garbage. There's a good question I did want to answer from Lisa. She said, Tony, still wondering why you think John Thune is stalling on the Save America Act. My guess is there's not enough votes to pass it. I'm guessing that's actually what it is, and he wants to save a Republican majority in the midterms. I'm guessing you have Republicans who would probably be forced, they would vote no. And it would expose a lot of Republicans who want to leave with their heads held high and a legacy that could probably have an impact on an election coming up, for instance. He probably doesn't want to give them a bunch of undue outrage. It's a long-term political game. It's the only thing I could think of. Now, I think it's a bad move. I don't think it's wise. It's a political move for sure. Just like Senator Mark Wayne Mullen. People are like, well, I don't like Mark Wayne Mullen. He's not a veteran law enforcement officer. That's true. Plumber and I believe some kind of a professional fighter for a while and a business owner. All right. It's a political move because the Oklahoma Senate seat is very, 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 very safe for Republicans. People make political appointments and moves all the time in politics. Sometimes, though, people are watching really closely, and saying, just trust me, kind of only goes so far. Now, Trump has some of the capital to go, just trust me. It'll be fine. We're thinking it through. We're cooking. Let me cook. He's got a bit of a foreign policy record to say that. Whereas Thune doesn't necessarily have a record. The majority leader doesn't usually have a super good record with the American people. The last time we had a leader of the House or the Senate on the right that had a really good record with the American people was Newt Gingrich. Newt Gingrich had a great record with the American people. Mitch McConnell sort of did during the Obama era, and then he kind of set it on fire. So, with that side, again, I think we've got a couple of really great mail time questions in tonight. I say we, leave things on that side for this evening. So you guys have a great time, great evening. Spend it with your family, whatever you got to do. Hope you guys come back tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated, first on 93 WIBC. If you feel so privy, we've got a link to our Discord, like our messaging group chat app, in the description. You want to join us? If not, no worries. Y'all, take care.